Hey Chris, this is Nathan here. I just wanted to go over some things with you on your 031 here. So I've got it all apart and I'm about to start the process of doing all the upgrades to it. But looking it over, from the looks of it, I'm going to assume that you got this off of eBay, and more than likely it came from the Philippines. Looking at the case back here, and there's some markings in here that look very similar to what I see quite often from watches that come from the Philippines that have been, like, basically abused and worn out over there, and then they take them and they strip them all down. They take parts from different watches and put it all together to make a watch that looks like it could be original or functioning, and then sell it on eBay. But anyhow, it's got the typical markings in there, which don't really mean anything because the watch wasn't serviced. It was just, that's basically when they're saying they, Frankenstein to put it together from parts from a bunch of different watches. But anyhow, a couple of things. So obviously the watch is not all original with, the way that it was with all original parts. One of the major giveaways here is that it had, or has, I should say, currently the 7S26C movement in it. This watch was discontinued before I think they even started using these C movements. So it would have had a B movement according to the date that's on this, or possibly even an A movement, depending on what 5 this represents, whether it's 2005 or 95. It would have had a or a B movement, but never a C. So that right there can tell you that it's not original. The bezel has a dent in it here, which I'm not sure if that's going to cause any issues or not yet. But when I go to put the ceramic insert in there, it might keep it from fitting, and if I try to force it in, there's a possibility it could crack, but I'll see what happens when I get to that point. What are some other things here? This is actually the new crown. This is the original crown. And speaking of crowns, so on this case, you can see the screw down tube on this thing is pretty much been beaten to hell. How a crown even screws down on it still, I have no idea. But then there's also some like epoxy around here that looks like this tube has actually been reinserted. I don't know how that's possible because these are welded in from Seiko, so somebody must have drilled out the original and then put this one in somehow, and then epoxied it around there. So when you screw it on, you can feel it feels a little rough. That's because it's, the way it is, it's all beat up. And with that being the case, after all is said and done, I would recommend that you don't ever take this watch in any amount of water due to the fact that that epoxy there, who knows if that's even gonna hold any type of water resistance. I'm not even gonna pressure test this because it's obviously has damaged sealing surfaces from that, so that right there would be a fail, and I wouldn't even proceed further with doing a pressure test on it. But I will put all the new gaskets in. Speaking of gaskets, you're missing a crystal gasket. I'll see if I have one. I think I do. What else? So, and the spring bar didn't have, or not the spring bar, but the click ball that was in here obviously was missing, but what they had in there was a spring which looks like it was from a ballpoint pen, which is a typical, like, a jerry rig type fix for these. So that was not original either, as it should have been the cartridge type like this one right here. But anyhow, I just wanted to give you an update and let you know that I'm starting on it, and that's what it looks like, what I'm dealing with here. So anyhow, I'll show you what it looks like when it's all done.